And you are live.
Hi, everybody. It's John Townsend here, and welcome to the Dr. Townsend Live Show. This is if you know what we're doing, you know what we're doing. But if you're not new, if you are new to what we're doing, welcome. Glad you're here, and hope this is helpful to you. This is an hour-long program where we talk about issues of life, like relationships, and all kinds of relationships, from family to dating to marriage, kids, your own parents, friends, business relationships, but also just about the whole spectrum of life, from emotional health, because it's been an emotional time with COVID and how to deal with that, the stresses of life, as well as the work environment and how organizations work better, how you can work better within yours and have the relationship and the success you want to have. We're on from 2 to 3 every Wednesday Pacific time, and what we just try to do is to make sure that you can probably tell I'm shifting around a little bit, because I got workers at the house and it's a little loud, and so I'm up in another room, and I'm not used to sitting in this particular place in this particular chair, but we will work that out. But it's a place where we think there's some things that are important. One is that you get a real understanding of the problem, instead of, well, don't be an idiot, don't do that anymore. Well, it never helped me. So we're big on the why. Well, what's the core of this? What's the core of this relationship struggle? What's the core of the emotional struggle, the work struggle? And also we try to give you real practical answers that make some sense, so that you come away going, okay, I can do this. I'm not left vague and confused, and where do I go now? Because life can be hard. We have all sorts of people. That's why I love our community here. We're on so many channels now. We're on YouTube Live and Twitter Live and Facebook Live and LinkedIn Live. And so we get people from sort of all walks of life that basically want one thing. If I had to say one thing, it's to improve. It's to improve life, to improve their situation, improve their health, improve a relationship that's struggling. And we're all about improving. So the way you do this, Stacy, our producer, is either here or she's helping somebody right now. And then, Stacy, are you available yet? Or are you helping like a business?
I'm here. Okay. I'm here and I'm helping.
She's multitasking. So Stacy was going to give you the numbers to call. And remember, we love it when you call and your face won't be on here. It's like we'll hear your voice, but you'll hear my mug. And I'll talk to you. And that's kind of preferable, because I really get a lot better information. But if that can't work, then you just, whatever venue you're on, whatever mode you're on, just type it in the chat thing and just put, my question is X, and Stacey will work with you that way too. Stacey, you can give them some information.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being with us on the Dr. Townsend Live Show today. Go ahead and grab your pen and paper. I'm going to give you the numbers to be able to dial in. So you're going to dial 1-877-853-5257. That's 1-877-853-5257. And then next, when you dial that number, you're going to be asked to enter a meeting ID. And that meeting ID number is 876-5437-2012. Again, the meeting ID is 876-5437-2012. So once you enter the waiting room there, when John is finished speaking with one person or answering one question, I'll go ahead and admit you from the waiting room into, and you will be able to voice talk with John. You won't be able to, you can see him if you're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, but you'll just be able to talk back and forth with him. So go ahead.
Which means you don't have to worry about, like, if your hair's in curlers or you didn't shave, don't worry about it, because that doesn't matter. I have to worry about it.
That's right.
My hair's in curlers or shave.
We're not going to pull you on screen.
Right.
But go ahead and start calling. He's available for the next hour to answer your questions and offer you guys helpful solutions today. And thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Stacy. She makes the magic happen. And to let everybody know, we put out an email just a bit before the show, because we like to kind of get everything sort of out there of what we're doing. And what we're noticing is that so many of you are on the social media venues that I mentioned and asking questions. And it's so cool to see those questions, and they're questions about how to make your life more meaningful. And sometimes there's heartbreaking stuff where there's a really, 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 really bad problem. And thanks for your vulnerability and putting it out there. And so I really just love the community that's there, and how people don't want to kind of like stay stuck in, who knows, being gaslighted or having a toxic relationship or not exercising your, your talents and your potential in the workforce. And how can you do that? Or having an awful emotion like depression or anxiety or PTSD or an addiction or compulsion, and the struggles there. And I just, when we go over there, it's just really heartwarming to say people really want a better life. That's going to keep them. That's going to keep them from being stuck. So thank you for that. I'm a big believer in how we were meant to grow. I mean, when you look at the Bible talks about growth being like a plant. We're supposed to grow. It says the farmer planted a seed, and then he watered it, and then he left it. He did not know how it happened, but then the shoot came up in the bud and then the entire plant, meaning that growth is often very invisible. But it doesn't matter whether it's visible or invisible. Growth happens if you do the right things. And so you see that in the Bible, you see it in science. You see it that people who are willing to make changes, not huge, catastrophic changes necessarily, sometimes little changes. And when they're willing to do those things, things happen. Now, I always have to tell people one thing. I would love to say this isn't true, and you got to sort of metabolize and digest this. It generally takes longer to get the full change that you want. We're all kind of like instant freaks. I'm sort of instant. I pace in front of the microwave sometimes. That's not a great thing. But if you can understand that life is really an oven where things happen gradually and there's little setbacks, but the trend line, we always say, a trend is a friend. If the trend's going the right way, be satisfied with that, as opposed to, why aren't things better? I just spent 10 minutes, right now my life goes. Well, there's something to that. So if you can be patient with the process while doing the right things, growth just happens. There's a science to it. There are principles to it and this sort of thing. So listen, we got somebody here, and somebody is on an iPhone. Is that right, Stacey?
Correct. Yep. Caller, you are live on the Dr. Townsend Live Show. Go ahead and ask Dr. Townsend your question.
Well, before you do that, tell us your first name and where you are in the world. Hi, I can see you. I could see you. What's your first name and where are you in the world, sir? I think it's a sir, right?
Caller, are you with us? Oh, maybe she's having some chat problems. If you can hear us, go ahead and unmute yourself, and then you'll be able to speak with Dr. Townsend. Okay, we'll try her again later.
Okay. Yeah, call us back. We'd love to talk to you. Well, where I was going with the growth thing is I always look at growth in several areas, meaning if we grow in these, what I call character capacities. Yeah, we'll get to the Twitter question in just a second. That everything gets better, whether it's better relationship, better marriage, better parenting, better spiritual life, better business leadership, and all that. Just remember, and you'll hear me do this. You hear me do this at the Townsend Institute. You're to do the leadership program. Just remember to always focus on attachment, which is relationships that are vulnerable, on separation, having great boundaries and having a voice, integration, which is the ability. I've got a delay with somebody. Focus on attachment. I really don't like hearing myself. I don't like that. And then integration, which is the ability to embrace negative realities and forgive, let go. Don't beat yourself up for not being perfect. And then adulthood, where you find your place. You don't feel like a less than. You feel like you know your purpose. It's always going to come down to those four that great things happen. So anyway,
John, sounds like you got another caller on, and caller, go ahead and click your unmute button and you will be able to ask Dr. Townsend your question.
Hi, caller.
Caller, are you with us? There they are. Yeah, go ahead. You're live with Dr. Townsend.
Hi, what's your first name and where are you in the world?
I think maybe they're afraid to talk now. Caller, are you with us? We have some shy people today, John.
Well, either that or it's the tech gremlins. Let's just go to the Twitter question. I want to answer some questions.
Okay. This caller, or not caller, but let me get back over to it real quick.
What do you call them? A chatter?
Your Twitter tweet question is from Julie in New Hampshire. And she says, Dr. Townsend, I have been divorced for 2 years now. I have 2 small children. I have refrained from dating because I'm trying to focus all of my attention on my children. But I've noticed in my 30s that I am missing out on the adult relationships in life that I really need, only because I'm fearful that getting into new friendships will cause me to want to start dating. And I'm not sure that that's a healthy place for me yet. How can I go about making friends without allowing romantic relationships to get involved?
It's a great question about self-control, restraint, and I would call it compensation, Julie, because it happens a lot. And I want to kind of tip the parenting hat to you to say, it's really cool that you put your kids first, because so many people get desperate or lonely. I need my second half kind of thought, and then they rebound and it gets messy and awful. The statistics are just horrible. And guess who loses? The kids lose, right? Because they're the most vulnerable ones. And you're saying, no, they're first. We had a bad thing with me and my ex, and it was over. And now I just want to concentrate on them. So great priorities and values, and that will pay off in good fruit with your kids. Now, the way you phrase your question, I think, is kind of where we can find the answer, Julie, where you said, how can I get involved in sort of life, which is, friendships, and not get, you either said not start having romantic relationships or start wanting them. Well, as obviously the want comes before the have, because we have desires and drives and feelings that cause us to act certain ways, right? I'm hungry, then I go eat, too much Ben and Jerry's. So I want to talk about the want. It's a normal thing, and especially if you enjoy the good parts of marriage and this sort of thing, and you would like to see that happen, you're going to have the feeling. So our solution, Julie, is not how to cauterize or cut off or mute that part of yourself. Desire is not a bad thing. The Bible talks about the desires of your heart, for example, in Psalms 37. I mean, desires, it's what you do with the desires that determines what's good for you and what's not. So yeah, you're going to have those feelings, because probably what you did is they kind of went underground because you had other priorities: survival, the kiddos, putting your life in stability. So you didn't have time for it. So you put your bandwidth and your focus and everything else. But you're right. If you get in relationships and you're going out with couples and they're in love, and you see people at a party or wherever, and you think that's an attractive person, yes, you will have those feelings. So what do you do with those feelings? Well, I always tell people that the feelings are not the problem. It's kind of what they mean and what we do with it. So one thing we find out is that number one, we have a full life. That's why I don't want you to be sequestered anymore. I love it that you're ready to get social again, because finding cool people that are interesting and have faith and all that, you've got to get out there. That's just good for you and your brain and all that. But along with that, number one, that will help you with the desire to get into a romantic relationship. It doesn't do all of it. I'm giving you several things. I'm giving you sort of a little menu, Julie, but it will help, because people that are isolated, the desires become incredibly, incredibly strong. That's why, men tend to be more isolated than women. So when they have a breakup, what do? They hook up again, and then they get involved. Women wait longer when there's been a divorce, because they tend to have more friends. They're better than that than men are. So the fact that you'll be doing it will take some of the edge off of the desire for that. But the second thing is to be able to live with purposeful activity, which is not only friendships and hanging out and being with people, but also what has meaning to me? Is it art? Is it music? Is it sculpture? Is it sports? It's got to be some non-mob stuff here. I'm just saying you're more than a parent. Is it business? Is it leadership? Is it whatever? But purpose will also help. And then the third thing is to be open that you might be ready for dating. My rule that Henry Cloud and I wrote about in Banners and Dating was after divorce, it was a year minimum. After the ink's wet, a year minimum. And if you're at that point, I didn't kind of get the timeline on that. It might be okay as long as you got a bunch of people around you. But I'm not a fan of, as you know, probably know, of you involving the kiddos in that person because they get their hearts broken. But there's nothing wrong with you having a night out and you don't bring the guy in and all that. So those are some things to do. But my whole point is have a full life of the relating part as well as the doing part. And keep in your mind, there's a timeline somewhere, and read the books and you'll find out where it is, and things should go well. Hope that helps, Julie.
Okay. Your caller, you're live with Dr. Townsend.
And I'm getting a big reverb here or echoey thing.
There you are. You can
Hi.
go ahead.
What's your first name and where are you right now?
Dr. Townsend.
And I'm getting a big reverb here or echoey thing.
If you can, caller, if you can close out the video where you're watching the show and you're just live, you can go ahead and speak with Dr. Townsend now.
Hi.
Caller, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Sorry about that. I don't
No
know.
problem.
Zoom does not like me very well.
A lot
You
of
have
people say
spoken with
that.
me before.
What's your first name and where are you in the world?
I am Kathy Petticord. I live in Columbus, Ohio.
That's
and
your
I
first
am a
name
Townsend
and your
Institute
second
grad.
name. Okay. Hi, Kathy Petticord.
I know.
And I'm glad
Well,
I'm glad you're part of the Institute and I do remember you. So thanks for calling.
Yes, and I'm obviously not shy and don't care that anybody knows who I am.
Okay.
So I'm also friends with Jody. Anyway, I just, you've spoken to me before, and I just, I've read through most of your books as well as Henry Cloud's, and I have been listening to Who's Pushing Your Buttons. And I'm almost done, so excuse me if you've covered this, but long story short, I am not married to the button pusher anymore because it required a necessary ending. However, my daughter ghosted me about 3 years ago after the divorce, and she lives with him. And I believe all of that toxic dysfunction, the no talk, no trust, no feel, is starting to creep into my relationship with my two other sons and daughter-in-laws. So there's a secret I suspect is floating around. And I could use your advice on how to deal with that toxicity that I thought I left behind, but it's still basically a ghost in the room.
Do you know what it is?
No, that's the thing. I have not been told why she chooses not to have a relationship with me. And maybe I'm being over paranoid, but now I feel like I'm walking on eggshells because my daughter-in-laws didn't get to know me for me because when they were getting married, our marriage was dissolving. So my son.
So let me understand this whole for a second then. You've got a daughter who has pretty much disconnected and somehow is realigned with your ex, her dad, and so that's a big pain. But have you asked her why did you do that? Have you ABC literally asked her to find out? Yes,
I've taken the advice of listening to everything she had to say. I literally went to counseling to understand it. And right after the counselor, I ran into her just like within minutes after praying. And she said, you know why? And I said, I don't understand it. I was in tears. I hugged her. She's living with him. And then you advise just twice a year. So I'm trying to
let's back up though, because the system that I talked about on the show, a lot of people have this awful problem is that you have the meeting and you say, I've got a pen and paper. I'm going to write down everything that you feel that I've disconnected with you on, and I'm not going to edit. I'm not going to interrupt. I'm not going to tell you my point of view. This is about me understanding it. And then I'll change whatever. I'll go away, and in a week or two, I'll call you back and I'll change what I think can be changed. So I hear you say, I did that. I got the list, but then I hear you say, she won't tell me what's wrong, but I just went, wait a minute, she did tell me what's wrong. Help me with my confusion a bit.
No. I tried to do that with her, and she denied me. She would not tell me.
Did she give a reason? Did she give a reason?
No, Dr. Townsend, I cannot get a reason. I live this. I would have to guess. I would have to mind read, and I would be punished and withheld from and withdrawn. And it's like the pattern is now continuing, because I have applied all the theories to what you've asked. But no, that's the same dance I had before when I finally said I can't do this.
Okay, so the dynamic is similar. Okay, so tell me the question then. Now, I'm sorry, and tell me the question.
Okay. Well, I have 2 healthy sons that are married, and they're now bringing grandchildren into the world. And they are, I feel like, a great relationship with them. However, the daughter-in-laws, they all, the kids all talk. So I feel like there is
so daughter's kind of poisoning the well behind your back.
Yes.
All right. So the question would be?
Well, I can elaborate. I am now in a healthy relationship with a man. We've been hanging out for over 2 years, and I feel like he is a safe relationship. And so I'm torn because I feel like I'm still.
Okay, let's make it a question. Let's form a question.
Okay.
Now. How
do I deal? How can I continue to deal with the same toxicity that I left, that I don't have to live with every day, but I feel like creeps in when I'm now relating with my daughter-in-laws?
Right. This is about the daughter-in-laws because they've been negatively influenced. They're weird around you in some way. Is that right? They're different around you?
Yes. I just feel like, yes, the toxicity, and I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm not allowed to be myself because.
Well, hold on. Let's get specific. Let's get specific. I need to know specific behaviors that they do that make you feel like they're mad at you or getting influenced by a daughter, because that will help me to know what specifically you, not just kind of, I feel it. That can be a pizza we ate, right? But what are you seeing from the gals that makes you go, this is not okay?
Well, for example, my son and daughter-in-law just gave birth to twins. And, I just think to not answer texts is even, and I've given them weeks, or it just that kind of behavior where I'm trying to ask before I do anything and respect their boundaries. But I feel like
now that's a good example. Is that a different behavior than they did before all this mess? Because some people just are awful texters, and that's kind of no harm, no foul. But I want to see a change. Like, were they good in text with you, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's crickets? Was it that kind of a problem?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's been okay, and then I just feel like was there something new information delivered or something? Because
and how long ago did you see the change?
It just was recently and again, my daughter is living with my ex. So I feel like it might have been new information or something.
Well, yeah, but we don't want to go there yet. I'm just looking for facts right now.
Okay.
Don't go into theory.
Okay.
So the supposition of what daughter's doing, we got no control of that. So recently, one of your daughters-in-law, who normally was in contact with you when she had twins, stopped contacting you. Do I have the facts?
Well, she's just not answering the texts. How can I help?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've just nothing.
And you said a second. Did something happen with daughter-in-law number 2 as well? That's similar or the same thing?
No, just nothing to get into now, but just feeling like that relationship went a little south over time.
Okay. All right. I think I got the facts. Here's what I would do. Let's forget daughter-in-law number 2. It feels vague. Let's forget daughter because you changed everything you can change. You've gone the 4th mile, and she's going to have to make her decisions, and hopefully your warmth will bring her back. And sometimes when her head gets better. I would, however, daughter-in-law number one, I would focus on her, and however that works.
Okay.
However venue, if that's Zoom or dropping by for coffee or texting or whatever works, has worked in the past few. I would put out this message, and very gently, I would say, if I'm wondering, and maybe I'm overreacting, I'm wondering if there's less frequency in our texting, less frequency. See, that's not a moral judgment, less frequency. If there's anything on not okay with you and me, I'd love to know. Let me know. Just checking in. So you don't come in saying, "Oh, did your sister-in-law trash me?" Just come in. It's just, you just stay with the frequency. It's not what it should be, and I really want to see you and hear about you. Is there anything okay? Is it? And you come in kind of like maybe there's a misdemeanor, and then she doesn't say, "Oh, my mother-in-law is coming in, with gangbusters." She's curious, and then if it's no big deal, she go, "Oh, I've been overwhelmed with twins or whatever." Then you're fine. But if she says, "Yeah, I've been having some different feelings," you could love to hear about it. And then I would do the same plan you did with your daughter, which did not work because your daughter's either not ready or she's self-centered. I don't know that part. But do the same thing about if there's anything wrong, goodness gracious, let me know. Because if a person is only mildly upset, that will work. So focus on her. Let me know how it goes. Call me back. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Take care.
Bye-bye.
You ever been like shut down by somebody where you really want to make things better and they say, "I'm not going to tell you why, I'm shutting down from you. It's going to be sort of a crickets." And all of a sudden it's the worst thing, because especially when you want to change things and they don't let you, it's really what it is. It's judgment. You've just been judged without a jury, and that's never okay and really painful. That's why I set up that little system that she tried with daughter, which is still the best way to go, but gosh, there's two people involved. Anyway, got somebody else, right, Stacy?
That's right. Caller, you are live with Dr. Townsend. Go ahead.
First name and where you are.
I'm guessing we have another shy one today. Caller, are you with us? Okay.
I don't think it's shy. I think it's more tech. People sound.
Oh, there they are.
Hi.
Are you with us, caller? You're live with Dr. Townsend. Well, maybe it is tech, and it also could be sometimes the area that they're in. Maybe they don't have enough signal to quite get through there. So we're going to move on. You actually have another question from an Instagram viewer that saw your posting about the live show and decided to call in. His name is JT. Isn't that funny? And so JT.
Oh, you mean Justin Timberlake? Yeah, I know what you're
That's
talking
right.
about.
That's right. Yeah, he's calling you from Montana. No, this is JT from Arizona, and JT says, Dr. Townsend, I've been reading through your boundaries books, and I was just introduced from going through the Growth Skills Ultimate Leadership Workshop back in February. I learned a lot, but the problem is that I took all of that healthy stuff that I learned throughout the week, and I came back into my unhealthy lifestyle in Arizona. How can I go about being relentless? How can I be relentless in getting the people out of my life, both personal and professional, that I know are unhealthy, without cutting off every part of human communication that I have?
It reminds me, JT, it reminds me when Henry and I wrote Boundaries, we're going, okay, what's the next book? Got to think about this. Hold on. I can't come to the door. Sorry, I'm on a show. Sorry. I got people working in the house. I have no idea. It's probably getting ready to blow up or something. Where was I? I just got verklempt.
When you guys first started writing Boundaries.
Yeah. And so what's our next book? And it was doing well. And somebody called us and said, can you write a book about, relationships? I thought, yeah, what's the idea? He said, well, I read Boundaries and I sent someone, now I don't have any friends. So I don't know. He must have taken a relational lawnmower and cut everybody off. So we decided that's why we wrote Safe People. Like, we got to get this guy friends. It's kind of mostly true with some hyperbole there. But it's a real natural thing to say, I got too many toxic people, and I kind of collect them and, all that. So number one, here's what I want you to do. And this is going to involve Stacy, our producer. You went to Growth Skills Ultimate Leadership, and it's a 1-week intensive out here in sunny California where Henry and I speak, and you have these great process groups with trained facilitators. And the lights come on, and oh my gosh, now I see how this ties in with my past as a little boy, little girl, and I'm going to be different. My neural pathways are different. Breakthroughs. Been doing it a long time. It's miraculous. I don't know if you did this, but if you didn't do this, there's a thing after that called Growth 360. Is that 360 or 365, Stacy?
That is Growth 365. That's the program that we put everyone in that comes out of the workshop.
Well, not everyone, because not everyone does it. They got to pay for it. So, but most of them do.
True. They should all do it.
Well, they should all, and it's reasonable. So, but she set up a coaching thing where you're still with your group that you went through all these growth things with, that you remember, JT, and you've got a facilitator that's on there that helps the growth go, and it goes a year at a time. It's just phenomenal. And Stacy runs that. So number one, if you did not do that, I kind of doubt that you did it, because you'd be going, yeah, I got a lot of knuckleheads in my life, but it's great that I got my team around me and they support me, and I can kind of cut off the ones that need to be cut off, and I can keep the ones that aren't that bad, and because they'll change with me, because they're not so crazy, they won't change. Do that first. I was reading in the Bible the other day where Jesus is talking about, it's in Luke, about a demon came into a person, and then it said when he came out, that when he was cast out, that then when the house was swept up in an order, 7 more came back in. And that's a metaphor for, you've got to be spiritually safe and all that. But the idea about that, JT, it's great for growth, is nature abhors a vacuum. Nature abhors a vacuum. And if you've got that vacuum of isolation from really good, deep, safe, vulnerable people, you don't have it. And my rule is 3 to 10, minimum 3, maximum 10. Or they go anywhere with you, take care of your relationship. They want to grow too, love you, tell you the truth, never judge you. If you don't have that, you're in a vacuum. And guess what? The bad people, the crazy people that, just aren't healthy, they take up all the vacuum. So get that number. And then number 2, once you've done that and you've reconnected with them and you're using them, you will find you're stronger. And then you can say to the ones that are sort of moderately crazy, can we change the way we dance? I feel like sometimes I'm kind of a little kid and you're the big person, or I feel like maybe I'm over responsible, you're under responsible. Can we work on that? And they'll go, yeah, my wife, my husband tells me that all the time. And the other ones, I got to have less frequency. But you really can't do that until you get the house full, not just structured, not just organized, but full of life and people. Okay, JT. Speaking of which, a lot of these concepts come out in the Townsend Institute. I was thinking the other day about how the job market's changing so much. And it's kind of a cool time to be working in many sectors, because people are valued more and they're getting better jobs, and Wall Street and Main Street are paying more attention. So it's a good time to be working. And my question is, that's good. Why don't you add passion to the mix? Because it's kind of like, I can get a job now. There's the unemployment rate is way down. So you can get comp, you can get a living, but what about passion? It's really the best to have a good, steady income and something that you love. I define passion as losing time, that you can lose time doing that. I love, maybe it's leading groups. Maybe it's being a coach for someone. Maybe it's being a counselor and healing people. Maybe it's helping in the ministry, run a ministry as a senior pastor or as a CEO or executive director. But now you've added passion and meaning and purpose to the fact that there's a stable income. That's what we are. We're a fully accredited master's degree program in leadership and in executive coaching and consulting and in counseling. We've got the gold standard in all of those, and we're fully online so that we can make it convenient for you. And I'm there all the time. I made a bunch of videos the other day. I do live stuff with the students. We've got lots and lots of students, And now they're getting great jobs. We've been around about 5 years here with Concordia University, Irvine, California, where we're based. We partner with them, and they're getting great jobs. So they get the stable income, and they go also, by the way, I don't have to get all my passion needs met by doing things outside the business. I'm doing it in the business too. Then that's the win. And so just get hold of us. Go to townsinstitute.com if it's your time. And people are getting great jobs as well as doing something they're good at and love and want to make the world a better place. Anywho, where are we, Stacy?
John, you have a question. The caller that keeps that has tried to call in and she is not able to speak. She has written privately on Facebook. She says, "My name is Shannon. I am from Kentucky. I've tried to talk with you a few times now. I keep watching the show each week, but every time you or your producer answer, I freeze and I hang up.
I'm sorry.
Here's the problem." She said, "We've lost 2 dear family members in the past 6 months to COVID. By now, we thought this would be over. In our minds, we think it's just a flu, but we know that there's something so much more serious, and we can't seem to move forward in even our daily lives, such as showering, cooking food, taking care of paying bills because of the grief we are feeling. One was an elder and one was only 13 years old."
Oh, so sorry, Shannon. Those are major, major losses, especially the 13-year-old, because the more vulnerable ones, it's just the hardest ones. What I'm going to tell you, Shannon, is based on, I think, the severity of what you're dealing with. And I'm going to give you kind of a right now answer and then a longer term answer. When we go through loss, the God solution, as well as the scientific solution, is a process called grief. And some people say, "Well, yeah, I'm already grieving, I'm sad." And that's not what I'm talking about. There's a structure to grief where we not only feel the sadness of the loss, but we do it in community where people are around us and they don't just kind of like, tell us, "Well, it'll be better by and by, there in heaven," and all that stuff that just makes it worse. These are people that really, they're really attuned to you. I don't know what your relationship world is, but I would want you to find, either in your friendships or in your church or your community or professionally, some people that you can meet with regularly, like, several times a week, and say, "I miss them so much and it's hurt so bad." And for them just to say, "Tell me more about it. I'm with you. I'm here if you need me. How does it feel?" And what we found out in the research, Shannon, is that when people feel like there's people around them that really get it, that's what attunement means. Like, no great answers, no, "Well, try this." It's sort of like, "I'm with you in the loss." That they don't, then they feel like these massive losses, these massive 2 losses you're in, that they're not alone. Attunement means the result is then Shannon goes, "I cried for an hour. I told them how much I miss them. And I told them all the memories I got of this person. And they just said, 'That means so much. Tell us some more. This had to be hard. This had to be overwhelming.'" All these kind of comforting things. And all of a sudden in your heart, you go, "It's awful, but I'm not by myself." I believe that it cuts the grief by about 50% to grieve by myself or with somebody else that's in the same boat I am. You said we several times. There's somebody else that you may be a spouse. I don't know. But not somebody who's in the well of loss with you, but somebody who's not. But when we do it alone, it's awful, awful, awful. It's the only thing worse than that is pretending it's not there. You're not doing that, and good for you. But it'll cut the pain in about half to know they didn't solve my problem. I still miss those 2 people. But the fact that inside my heart, I'm not alone, cuts it by about half, literally. The Bible calls that comfort. Comfort each other with the comfort you've been comforted. But I'm a little concerned on a severity level. So I'm going to give you another suggestion, because when you say, "I can't shower, I can't get up," now we're into depression. That's just not normative grief. And so, Shannon, I want you to get a good therapist, either near where you are, and we can look for somebody for you. And Stacy's note has contacts, or somebody on Zoom. But I want you to call somebody like today and say, I can't function well, because you've gone into where function being affected. That won't get better, even with just having a bunch of nice people around you. Because by that, if you're having a hard time with the sort of the tasks of life, it means your brain just kind of shut down at some levels, and you've got to bring something good in there. It might be a great counselor, it might be meds, who knows, but start with a great counselor. Okay, Shannon. Sorry about this.
Yeah, that's very, very difficult. I'm glad she was able to write in and we could see that, John.
I am too.
Your next question is coming from Luke. And a couple of days ago, we shared out your interview with Loveology, where you talked about.
Oh, yeah. Leslie Parrish thing about relationships. Yeah.
Yes. And this particular one was, how do I get my partner off of their phone? And Luke says.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Mm-hmm. Luke says, this was very helpful to me. However, I still need a little extra advice. I'm at my office in California, or I would call you, but everyone will hear me. So he says, my wife and I have been married for 3 years and we're in our early 30s. We have had conversations about phone usage, et cetera, in the past. She has a high level executive job. She is on her phone a lot and has tried to disconnect, but she says that everything in her life is on her phone. Her work is on her phone. Her personal life of catching up with family and friends is on her phone. But she will go into a phase of trying to have no phone time a few evenings a week. And then it seems like it just picks right back up again. And we've gone through this 3 different times. I'm kind of at my wit's end. I don't know what to do. Help.
Yeah, sorry, Luke. Your wife has, I would call it a minor level dependency issue. There's something semi-addictive about this. We always talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. I don't know if it's that, but there's some kind of dependency where she feels some kind of, just like an addict would, it feels like there's a hole inside of her, like a food addict will do that, a drug addict will do that, alcoholic. There's a hole inside of me, and it's almost intolerable to think, I'm not taking her side. I'm taking both of y'all's sides, Luke, that if I don't have it, I am without. And it's an awful feeling. It's an awful feeling for a person with that kind of dependency to have. And I'm glad that she tried some things, but it seems to me like, using the analogy of addiction, that she's doing it cold turkey without figuring out the why. Addicts don't get better until they know what drove the addiction. Like, people didn't just develop an addiction out of the blue. Well, I think I'll screw my life up today. It's a great life, but I think I'll screw it. They don't do that. And I would want you read my book, Hiding from Love, together as a couple. And it talks about the 4 reasons that people go into dependency, either dependent relationships or dependent activity or substance or whatever, and find out what is it that's pulling. Let me just give you a small menu. One is that for some reason she feels connected and feels isolated otherwise. That means maybe you guys aren't close enough, or maybe she doesn't have enough friends that are live and can meet and have dinner and lunch or whatever. But it might be it's the only thing that causes her to feel connected. And she's got to learn how to get connection met, not just cold turkey, no phone. Remember, that's the whole analogy about Jesus saying, don't just empty the house and bad stuff comes in, because nature is going to report a vacuum. So could there be I'm getting some attachment needs met? Another one is, since she's a high capacity worker, maybe she's getting a lot of ability to say no, not mean stuff, but like to make decisions and direct people, this sort of thing. And maybe she feels kind of useless without it. Like, it's just kind of her way to feel like she's doing things. And that would mean helping her to deal with, how can I be a purposeful, not just purposeful, but can I be a person who is saying my truth, saying what's real and true, and having choices. Another would be, maybe it's the third part, we call integration, where she's got this judge inside that said you're not working hard enough. and you're not doing enough, and you're letting the company down. And she's got to work through the fact that if her supervisor says, "You're doing great, Sally," then she's got a judge in her head that she's got to tell that judge to back off, that she's doing a good enough job. She doesn't have to be on 24/7 a day. And the fourth one is maybe it helps her feel like she has a good career in mind and that sort of thing. So talk to her about that, get the book, and help her with the why, because there's something inside her head in one of those four, what we call character capacities, Luke, that's driving that. Otherwise, she'd be able to say, yeah, kiddo time. Well, y'all don't have kids yet, but yeah, it's Luke and me time. She can't do it because one of those four things is getting activated. Good luck with that.
Okay, John, tons and tons of questions on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube today, but I think we've got time for a few more. As it relates to—
oh, by the way, can we welcome YouTube? They're on news. So we had—
oh, yes, that's right.
So welcome YouTube. So glad you're here.
Right. And this one comes from Michelle MacArthur, and she is asking you, and you know Michelle, she is asking you, when it's related to Stockholm Syndrome, Dr. Townsend, can you help me understand how to heal, separate, and move forward from that?
Absolutely. Thank you for that call. It's a big deal. The idea behind Stockholm Syndrome is when someone develops a positive attachment to a negative person because it's a way for them to see the person as safe. The idea came from a bank robbery in Stockholm, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 years ago. I think it's 30 years ago, where the people who were hostages, over time, it took some time to get the situation resolved. The bad guys were with them for some time. They developed, basically, they kind of didn't fall in love, but it's sort of an infatuation that these people are my protectors and my friends and this sort of thing. And so where it comes from, see, some people don't get Stockholm Syndrome. Some people go, these are bad guys. I hope they're in jail or get, blown away or whatever. They never feel that. But a person that's vulnerable to that generally has a history of giving enormous power to some other figure, mom, dad, teacher, neighbor, grandpa, father, a little older, or sibling, whatever, some significant person, of giving enormous power to that person because that's the only way they'll be nice to me. Because if I'm myself and I say I disagree, hey, I don't like what you did yesterday. Let's change the TV channels, or I don't like this food or whatever. Really bad things would happen. So the only way they feel like they can make the attachment and feel safe with someone is to do whatever they say, and then the loving feelings come in because they get the dopamine hit from the person being nice to them. They go, oh, they're nice to me now. What did I do to get that? The dopamine hit feels good. I feel loved. I feel safe. Oh, I know what. I sort of fell in love with them and saw everything their way. And I forget that they're a bad person or toxic person or whatever. So that's where it all comes from. And how do you solve that? If you found that you're vulnerable to that, there are people in your life you're giving enormous power to, feeling attracted to, or dependent on in some way. I'm going to sound like a broken record here. You got to get the safe people in your head first. You can't get rid of the bad people until the safe people are there, because all of a sudden then you develop a baseline of, oh, they let me have an opinion and they don't judge me, or they let me disagree or have needs and they don't walk away and reject me. Oh, this is new and this is good. And you take those healthy people, and not perfect people, but good people, like I talk about in People Fuel, your life team. And as you take those people in, all of a sudden the addiction's less. It's like, so when somebody is crummy to you, instead of going, oh, maybe I can please them to the light, and you go, well, that was being a bonehead. I don't like that. You talk to them and they either go away or change. But it's not just as simple as that. But that's the first part, is getting the right people in. The second part, Michelle, is to be able to identify the patterns. Is that everybody who gets afflicted with Stockholm Syndrome has got to see the pattern of what is it about this person or persons, because they tend to do it more than one person. What are the things that are in common? Very, very, this is a golden nugget to get that. Like, are they nice a little bit and then take it away so that they kind of emotionally seduce me? Or do they blow up and that scares me and then it's okay and then they apologize? Or do they lie to me and then they'll be a good boy or a good girl? When you get the patterns, you give enormous power. And so I don't do crazy patterns like that. So the right people notice the patterns. That's kind of the formula.
Okay, Dr. Townsend, your next question comes from Kim. And Kim says, I feel like I need a support team, but I'm also planning on relocating across the country before the end of the year. Where is still to be determined. Any advice on how I can develop the support team without feeling as if I'm using the people I'm about to leave?
Use them. I'm not being mean here when I say that, Kim, but use them for transition, because you don't want to just go cold turkey. Okay, bye, have a nice life. And fortunately we live in a tech society now that you can keep Zooming, keep texting, and feel emotionally connected, and use them for that. If somebody in my life, I had that happen to me when somebody in my life moves away and says, I had a friend, a dear friend, moved to another part of the country, and we're still in touch. We have conversations every couple of weeks, and text and phone calls and Zooms and all that. And this person's just a good person in my life, always has been. So use them for that transition, and then don't say it's over. You won't have the same face-to-face access. True, it's not the same kind of quality. Face-to-face, I believe, is like a nice dry aged ribeye, and Zoom is kind of like a pretty good hamburger, but it's still really good for you. So use them, and I don't think that's exploitative. And the reason I say that is because sometimes we don't want to be a burden to people. And that's just crazy thinking, Kim. We are burdens to people. You're a burden to your friends, and they're a burden to you. And that's how life goes. Like it says in Galatians 6, to bear each other's burdens. So sometimes it's your turn to bear theirs because they got a bad thing with their spouse or their kid or health. And sometimes it's their turn and your turn. We bear each other's burdens. So just say, I'm not going to see as much, but I would like, there'll be some that you'll keep, some that just you won't keep. You say, I'd like to know I can stay in contact while I'm transition. Nobody that's sane would have their feelings hurt. That takes care of having that support base as you make the transition. Now, as to the transition, what people generally do is they ask the people that they know, who do you know that's in Tuscaloosa? Let's make that up. I mean, I didn't make up the word because it's a word, but I made it the place. No, I didn't make up the place because it exists. I just came upon it randomly. I didn't want to get a bad email from Tuscaloosa. I love you guys. And just say, who do you know there? Is there a good church there, or is there a good community setting there, or is there a neighborhood that would be good to be with? That's how people live in community. They live in, I don't know if you're married or whatever. Where can I put my kids in sports? Where can I go to churches, schools and churches? So find out from your existing places who they know. And then when you get there, suppose you don't get anybody. Nobody says, I've never heard anybody there and don't know anybody. Okay. Then you get there. And what I think the most successful people do is that they make a really high priority, along with getting stable, getting where your living is and your working is and all that as well. It's kind of the functional stability. Make a real priority reaching out. Don't wait for people to befriend you. Bad idea, because people don't know. So go to community things, Chamber of Commerce things, sports events, churches, the neighborhood. And what you find out is you don't have to have a lot of these people, but you got to have that 3 to 10 and over, and give yourself 6 months. And you should have enough to say, oh, I got a few here back in my old place, and I got some cool ones here that are starting, and you should be okay. Tuscaloosa.
Okay, John. Your last question today comes from Richard on Twitter. Richard says, John, I tried to come on and talk with you about this last week. Several people are wanting to talk with you. He goes, but time did not allow for me to call in. So here's my question. I found out 6 months ago that my wife had been cheating. We are in a local church, have been for several years.
So sorry.
And he says that we've been in our local church for several years. The cheating has been going on for quite some time, and it's not just with one man, it's with quite a few. She seems to be living this double life outside of our marriage. And my question is, I know that biblically she has broken our marriage vows, and I'm being told by people in my church and my small groups that I have every right to go ahead and divorce. He said, but my heart is just not ready for that yet. At what point would I realize that it would be okay to leave the divorce versus continue praying for her to come back around?
I'm so sorry. My heart just dropped when you said that, Richard. That's just, that kind of betrayal is just, it turns everything, it just guts you. And I'm just very, very sorry. I am inferring from what you said that she's not stopping. When you say come back around, what I didn't hear was, yeah, she's with me and she wants to go to counseling and she wants to work on these things. It sounds like she's still out and about, but let me give you the scenarios. I'll start from the positive to the most horrible. Yeah. Biblically, that's what Jesus said in Matthew 5 and Matthew 19, that you have the right, but it's not a directive. Jesus didn't say you have to, you must, or you should. He said you can't. So your friends that say you have to, well, you don't. And there are lots of times when the right recipe of good things happens over time that people have put together, their marriage again. And I've known many of them, worked with many of them. And so if she's saying whatever's causing this, who knows, something in her own childhood or something in her head about excitement or something about you, but she's willing to go get counseling. And we're talking about at least a year, once a week. I'm not talking about once a month or anything like that. You guys need counseling at least a year, at least once a week, if not more. Then you decide, okay, I'm hurting and I've got to get a lot of help and I'm going to be really mad and don't trust her. But she's willing to do the hard stuff and look deeply into whatever she's done and deal with it and get healthy. And you sound like you still feel love toward her, even though you're in the midst of horrible brokenness. You hang in there and see if there's good fruit, and she gets it and she changes, and you probably change whatever you're doing in the process, even though it's obvious it's her behaviors. But let's suppose she's, as I was inferring, I don't know if she's lying about it and saying I'm not doing it, or if she's caught and still doing it, or she's out with, if she moved out, I don't know what that means. But I'm going to assume that was, so number one was she wants to work on it. She's sad. She's open. The other one would be, you make as many appeals as you can. God appeals to us a lot before he finally says, okay, not my way, but thy way, as C.S. Lewis would say. So you make as many appeals as you can and ask to meet. And sometimes just saying, I want to get together and I'd like to look at what I'm doing as well as what you're doing, that'll bring the person. But suppose you've done all that stuff, all the taking of initiative, Richard, and no interest on her part. She's out partying, crazy stuff, and all that. Then we have to move from sort of that vulnerable reaching out, which I just did. I've only just talked about that suggesting, to warnings. And warnings mean, I can't wait forever. You're acting out and it's killing me. And if you don't want to agree to get a good marriage therapist that we can meet with and commit to the process, and don't say a year, because sometimes they can come in kind of skittish, but if the therapy's working, it connects with the inside, they go, okay, something good's happening. It's not just the acting out, there's something deeper happening. So don't say you got to do it for a year. Just say, I want you to come in for a few sessions, 4 or 5. And if she'll do that, then the warning is, then I will wait for that, and give me an answer. And if there's nothing, and you get this multiple thing, I think the warning's got to be, you didn't answer that, and I asked for help for this. And so at that point, not only do you have the right, but again, it's always your choice, but then you're at a crossroads. You can do it either way. And what you've got to live with is, and some people do both of these, Richard. So I'm not giving you a guidance. I'm giving you the options. Some people decide, I'll live like that, married to you. If you won't divorce me, I'll just live like this because I don't want to divorce you. And some people have certain reasons to do that. And that's not bad or sick or anything. Sometimes it's sick, but not because of that. Sometimes there's just healthy reasons, like I just don't want to, but I want to have a good life. And I just stay in my state. Not many people do that, some do. And the other is, I'll give you, a few more months. You've already been treated. You've already been vulnerable. You give her the warning. I would say if she says, you got 30 days just to say you'll show up in an office. And if she says after 30 days I'm not, then that's the other option. So I am not directing you. I am saying both of those are valid, but those would be the parameters I would operate in. And good luck with that, Richard. It's tough. Big day, tough day, Stacy.
A lot of painful
A lot of pain.
questions today.
Well, thank you again for y'all's vulnerability. And I love this community about how people really want life to be better, even from a good life to a great life to a really, really hard life, to see what changes can be made. So I hope the answers were helpful, and thanks for your time. See you next week.